Hello. Good evening, everybody. And good afternoon, Tali.
Good evening, Kay. Good, probably evening for everyone in our chat. Thanks for being here, everybody. Only 5 minutes late. That's right. Pretty good. Pretty good. My wife was sitting, she was warming up the chair. She was the one sending the emojis in the chat. In case you could feel like the POC essence coming from them. There was a brown sitting in my chair. I had to clean it, so that's what took us a little longer to start.
I thought, okay, that you just said that and then said you had to clean
my
up,
wife
so
is
it
the
sounded
brown,
like
not a shit. Yeah.
well, no, just meant that you had anyway. There was some like
a murder.
Yeah, it's gone.
How else?
I was gonna come on and say, hey, fuckface. What the fuck are you talking about?
Kay's trying to coach me into asserting myself in a more dominant way in these conversations. Yeah, so obviously today we want to talk about the panel from yesterday.
Yeah.
I wore the Universal Construction Workers shirt today in solidarity with the working class, and to represent the kind of PLATNER ethos right here on the show. So
on the show,
because it's even a hardware. It's even a hardware shirt. So yeah, no big deal. I'm one of the people. Not trying to brag.
Not trying to brag. Yep. Yes, PLATNER for PREZ.
PLATNER for PREZ.
The title of the stream is "We Should Be So Lucky." The year of our Lord 2026.
Yeah, I know two people who voted in Maine in the primary. One for PLATNER and one against PLATNER. So right now,
it's like zero.
To my,
it's a tie. Yeah. It's a wash.
According to my sample, exactly. It's 50-50 here right now. So although I don't even know who the person who voted against PLATNER voted for, presumably Mills, but I'm not even sure.
Yeah, this is just like kind of depressing.
Yeah,
that we're here. Oh man, but I don't know. I don't even know what to say. So, Tali was on Wick's panel last night. Last time we were here, I think it was last time, Wick was texting you or messaging you about the show. And I think he messaged me too, but I did not see it until the next day. So I was like, oh yeah, sure. And then it was full. And I'm kind of glad it was full because I like fighting.
I know. And well, I don't even know if there's any blame to be passed here, but there's lots of annoying things. Obviously, the chat was insane. My wife came over and she was like reading the chat towards the end of the conversation. And she's like, babe, are you gonna be okay? She's like, are you gonna cry after this? And she wasn't trying to taunt me. She was being serious. But so putting the nasty stuff aside, there's just so much of the like, why should someone who voted for Trump who's not a Dem be in this conversation? And I think that's like kind of fair, especially in the way that the prompt was framed of like blue no matter who. But I was there because I was specifically invited by Wick, who specifically invited you too, even though, you know, you're not a Dem and not an American. I guess Mooden's American. Maybe that's a joke that they talk about him being.
He lives in Canada.
Oh, he does live in Canada. Okay, well,
but I think the thing is he is American but moved to Canada because his wife is there. But I don't know.
Okay.
My understanding is that is what I heard in passing, but I don't know. I can neither confirm nor deny.
Yeah. Well, and anyway, that's such a small thing, but it's just like, and people are like yelling the comments of like, don't have, why was this girl on for? It's like, because he decides who he wants on his panels.
And do you know how many super chats he gets shitting on Tali? True. Of course he wants her on. Keep it coming, motherfuckers. But we were messaging. And I have to say, you were like, maybe I shouldn't read the chat when I'm on. And no, you should not read the chat when you're on. You if it influences you
Definitely
at all,
is me. Yeah.
it's
Not that
not
not that
read the
I
chat.
don't talk or that I like cry or anything like that. But I think I was saying to you in our private conversation earlier, there's just some like I definitely am always adjusting to my audience. This is like a human thing, you know. Some people are better at this than others, but like in my real life, you know, like I'm not, which is a by the way, like a pro-social uh behavior to develop, right? You don't always need to tell everyone what's honestly on your mind at all times. You don't need to go down every rabbit hole, right? So in a sort of obvious way I do that, but I'm definitely influenced by like the audience that I'm speaking to. Not that like it's shocking. I know Wick's audience. I know
Yeah.
like what they think
But
and what
nothing good's gonna come from it. And you should more focus on the other guests
I think
and
that's
adjusting
right.
yourself to the other guests than to the audience. Because you
I
will
think that's right.
the only way to win the audience is to like interact with the other guests
Be
in a
impressed.
way that like that do you know that they
Yeah.
find more like not more appealing, but like you can't cater to them because there's half of them don't exist. Like
Yeah.
some of them aren't even real.
That might honestly even be true. But yeah, and you know, it's funny because I was watching you totally got me into that bricks and figs
Minifigs?
thing. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
So I was watching today earlier like a lawyer reacting to some of the unredacted
Videos,
body
yeah.
cam footage.
Yeah.
And this is an interesting guy, not one of like the super famous lawyers that I'm familiar with online, but and he just kept repeating this thing in the context of this case of like when you're explaining you're losing, and there's just like really something there in a, again, maybe this is an obvious thing, but then when I was thinking about that and extrapolating it to debates and stuff, that's just like literally true, even in a way that I can relate to of when I, you know, when you think of a good hypothetical or you put something back at them, you do feel like powerful as they're powerful. I don't mean to, you know, be so dramatic about it, but yeah, like as they're tripping over themselves. Yes. And I think one of the hard parts about the conversation, which again I said to Kay previously, is there's something very fair about saying why should I listen to you making moral judgments about Plattner when you voted for Trump, who is I just believe is obviously a morally flawed man, especially, you know, when we're getting into the lying and stuff, because I do think the like lying is a big issue with Plattner. And the lies feel different in ways from Trump, but Trump's a huge fucking liar, man. Trump's lies like he breathes in ways that I don't even know that he's conscious of or malicious of all the time. And maybe that's the thing. And maybe I'm so naive or I've been so brainwashed, but there's like almost an aloofness about Donald Trump. There's something unserious about him in a way that like Plattner is like very intense, and it just feels like a different taste of these characteristics, even if they're bad characteristics on both of these people. So all that said, I think it was like it was an obvious line of attack for anyone, right? Who like, it's annoying because it didn't need to be a partisan conversation, and the conversation is supposed to be about Plattner, but it's a fair enough line of attack. And I really hate that I allowed myself essentially to get caught up. I almost wish I had like a retort plan to be like, this conversation isn't about Trump. But I think I also try to answer these things because I don't want to look like I'm pushing it. I never want to look like I'm avoiding a question, you know? And I think I get this maybe from doing like Israel-Palestine debates too. Like it's very effective when the other person like refuses to answer your question in a way that, again, well, I have different thoughts about it now, the Ryan Pisco conversation, you know, it's like it was effective that Pisco kept asking a question that Ryan deliberately and intentionally for good reason was not going to answer. Still can look bad, especially when clipped. So that's why I always try to answer these questions. And also because, and this is what I need to just totally drop this hat for most of these conversations. They're not conversations, they are debates. They are tribal sports. Because I'm willing to concede maybe too much in like an open, good faith conversation. You know, like I'm willing to be quite reflective and, you know, eat a lot of bullets or whatever. But I know that it looked bad when I sat there and said that I would rather leave my small daughters with Donald Trump than Graham Plattner. But I mean it.
I would agree with you. First of all, even if Trump was a perp, his fucking dick doesn't work anymore. Man's 80 years old.
Right.
He's at least he's held a child in his hands. He has some grandchildren. Graham Plattner is like an unmedicated, untreated asshole with PTSD, and I wouldn't want him anywhere near like a kid who might like set him off. Because
yeah,
I will say, if you've known men who have been like, I've known a lot of men who are in combat and had PTSD and gotten better. And the way somebody talks when they've healed, when they've gotten better, when they've like self-actualized, when they've realized things, when they've gone through growth, that is not how Plattner talks. Plattner does not talk like a man who has changed at all. No. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't want him anywhere near anybody. Yeah.
Yeah. And I kind of like, I almost I did, not that it matters much because I stand by my small child thing too, but I even meant more of like myself being locked in a room with either one of them, you know, or like I sent you a message, I think a bizarre hypothetical that I had playing in my mind. There's like, there's a zombie apocalypse and me, Donald Trump and Graham Plattner are the only 3 people left on earth. And I have to kill one of them and repopulate the earth with the other. I'm repopulating with Donald Trump, even if he's like obviously less attractive and older in that way. Like Graham Plattner is actually scary, skeevy, and like some of that shit, frankly, could be genetic, like some of these predispositions. And so, although I don't know, I'm not trying to smear his parents or anything like that. And of course, your genetic load is not a moral failing. But anyway, all that to say, I stand by what I said, but it didn't feel good. It is losing to be having to make these explanations. And you know, it's frustrating too, because I didn't prepare, because this was a debate about Graham Plattner. My preparation for the conversation was the Plattner allegations against him and stuff about Susan Collins, because I wanted to reiterate the point that Susan Collins is not the Nazi that you guys are painting her out to be, and to make the case that she is actually a moderate Republican. And so I haven't looked at the what's her name? The crazy lady. No, the crazy lady who accused Trump, who filed the civil suit against Trump for rape. E. Jean Carroll, that's her name.
Yeah.
And listen, maybe if I read them through again with a fresh pair of eyes, maybe I would believe them. I remember it not feeling super credible and her being a really bizarre person. And I know that's not fair, but that is how we judge people's credibility. Is their, you know, their personal credibility. And she like had an interview with Anderson Cooper about the thing, and she was making very strange sexual remarks about it. Maybe I'm totally wrong and Trump is a rapist. Like, I don't know. Again, I just wish I didn't have myself in a position where those were the questions that I was answering. But I felt like it was also a lose to say, like, I'm not here to talk about that. But maybe that is the more, maybe I just shouldn't allow myself to get into that corner. What do you think about that?
Allowing yourself to get into the corner with
like
exactly
with like the specific example of like the E. Jean Carroll rape, and then I'm having to
litigate. I think he was
like,
talking
do I
about
think
Ivanka
that the allegations
or
against
Ivana,
him,
or I think it was like
they were talking about both.
Actually.
They were talking about both. So the ex-wife in some, like, was it divorce filing? I remember
it was in her divorce filing, and then she recanted it before he even ran for office, and because it came
That's
out,
a good point that he recanted before she ran. Before he ran.
She said it in like 1990, and she already backpedaled it in 93. Okay, so whatever. I
didn't have any of this.
Not out of, yes, I have to
look it up after,
but it's not out of the realm of possibility for me for a woman to be divorcing a very powerful rich man and making up an allegation in the divorce to get a better settlement, right? Like these are just not things that are so hard to think are possible. Like it's just not. That's not like there's
Right.
not like a beyond the realm of possibility thing that is like so far fetched that like I can't entertain it.
Yeah.
You know.
But they
So
also were
I
bringing up the E. Jean Carroll thing because the making the point about the civil case
know, but
finding.
the civil case, from my understanding, it was weird. It was like it was found to one thing, and then the judge decided that it was more. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back. I found like civil cases for rape like 20 years later to be just like what are we doing here? Like this does
Yeah.
not feel like a pursuit of justice for me at all. And maybe like this feels very politically
Well, and that's the
motivated.
thing.
Um,
And maybe it's not fair, but all of this happened right when he was literally the most famous person on the planet, and a tremendous number of people had reason, they would say good reason, to want him to, be taken out of power and delegitimized. And
but he
also,
had been in the media for so long before, right? Like he had been known, he had been doing things, and
oh
so he
yeah,
was not this unknown person. So there was not any incentive to do it before, because you could say that about Plattner, but it was like people look or fairly or unfairly look at Trump as like this unique evil. Okay, so her bringing those things up at that time, it's just very specifically political. Whereas Brad Plattner, somebody who was in a weird relationship with him and then he did nothing, got married, and lived a quiet life, may not feel like this man doesn't have access to power, influence, money, and all these things. Therefore, maybe I don't need to tell the world that his character is bad. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? Whereas Trump is
yeah.
already out there with all these. It just
No,
they
yeah,
seem
and
different to me.
yes, totally. And again, right, to your point, and it's like I didn't want to like go in that direction necessarily because it's a sensitive topic, obviously. But yeah, it's like there was a lot of political motivation to take him down, but
Yeah.
also, as the signature here on talking shit, I say I'm more loaded on talking shit, that we try to be sincerely compassionate for people, especially with ideologies that we used to believe in.
Mm-hmm.
TDS is like a funny thing to say, and it's a way to like mark people as annoying who are very annoying, but it is actually a derangement in that it can literally develop into mental illness. And
Yeah.
some of these things might not even necessarily be like entirely malicious. And I say this the same thing with like a lot of Me Too stuff. People like get caught up
Mm-hmm.
in these things, and you can start to rewrite history, even if not intentionally, even if you believe you're telling, the truth exactly as it happened.
Yes, but here's the thing. Like, yes, and right. Yes, that's possible. And I think there were people, and this is where we're part of it. Various people will say, but like, and I'm on the left because I care about da 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 da. Okay, that's great. Maybe you do. I don't think many people on the left are interested in caring about other people. I think they're interested in using the left as a vehicle for power, because this is what I see them do. This is what their behavior reads as. Their behavior, it does not read as compassionate, because compassionate people are not just generally selectively compassionate. Like people who have compassion can extend compassion. It is not relegated to people who are perfectly and who have the perfect morals. You're muted.
Right. It's not right, or it's not reserved people that they already agree with or that they have some incentive to
Yes,
align
and
with.
it's just like taking politics as the like it's like a political aesthetic, but it's like team sports, right? And like these people would be baseball fans before, you know what I mean?
Right.
And like in team colors, and now everything has become politics, so people are into politics, and some of these people are just fucking jocks and assholes, and some of these people are I don't know, would have been seen kid like there's a whole different like avenue for a bunch of people, but now like everybody's kind of like squished together in the political realm and camped out on two sides. So
Right.
um
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's just sticky. And you know, I tried to make the point because these people are all like, or mostly everyone there was like a Biden lover, right? And I tried to make the
yeah.
point that like we don't all just believe the Tara Reid allegations either, right? Like there are not every allegation is true. I find Lindsay Fifield's allegations to be credible. I'm also biased, but we're all biased, right? You know, and by the way, when Tara Reid's accusations came out, I was a supporter of Joe Biden. So like I you know, um so yeah, I don't know. It's tough, and I need to.
And but we don't even need the accusations about Plattner to be true to already think his character is
That's
not
true.
there, right? So it is not, it does not rest on that. And this whole blue no matter who thing, sure, but like the left has been screaming and training their own side, the left, the Democrats, whatever, however you want to put it, have been drilling down onto character is important. Honesty is important. Your, sexual morals are important. All these things for a decade, and now they're like, yeah, it's okay, right?
Yeah.
But like you've built up a base that has been very like staunchly and strongly caring about these things. So you can say blue no matter who, and you're the small percentage of people who are going to vote in the primary, which is like something like 20% of total. So that's like you can splice that even down. It's an even smaller percentage, like a smaller number of like actual Democrats, whatever, can really push a candidate forward. And if you're going to just blindly accept them with no check on it at all, then they have no incentive to choose candidates and pick somebody who has broader appeal. And I've come down to thinking blue no matter who is fine as a tactic. It's a tactic. It should not be argued for and publicly like discussed. Like that's something you can do privately, and it's something you can make your decision on. But you shouldn't go around fucking advertising that no matter what crazy motherfucker you're going to put up, we're just going to nod our head and vote for them, because then you lose all incentive. And if you're really going to do it like game theory, you should do it like in the tit for tat. And every so often you don't choose one. That way you keep your fucking fringiest people on their toes so they don't choose somebody who's too fucking wackadoodle.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, right. I mean, it is like cultish, right? And that's the thing too that I had to reckon with. And it's frustrating because then I like regret giving any ground, because it's just like not a it's not really an honest conversation with a lot of the people that were in it, especially, in the open panel and Soy Pillow, and we'll get to all that. But the right does this a lot, and I don't like it. In some ways it's what happened with Trump, even though that was like a little tougher because it was like really the voters in a way, and like there were a lot of things influencing the way the voters felt. But yeah, like Republicans do this, and I ate that and said that because it's true, and it's something that I don't like about the right. And I just don't see how it's funny because this actually all just fits so neatly into the conversations that we were having several months ago, with Destiny being at the center of it, with his, crass comments, and the idea being like, and again, I mean, I take less issue with Destiny making crass comments. People online make crass comments. He said a few things that like really I found offensive, that I actually like just stopped watching him because I was turned off for a while, but I went back, it wasn't the end of the world. But during that whole like saga, the point that Wick and like Kyla and whoever and me kept trying to lay out was like, why you're not going to win by just like becoming what you hate, what you purport to hate, at least, right? Like what you purport to be fighting against.
Because that's what they think that the playing field is so unfair. This is what I've come to understand, and I could be wrong. So guys, please correct me, is that they think that the political landscape and playing field is so that they are, so Destiny's been doing like the adults versus kids thing or whatever, that they are doing respectability politics and trying to be on the up and up, and you're essentially playing against somebody who will lie, will cheat, will steal, and will use any way that they can to win the game. And you're just like sitting there playing by the rules, and you're getting your fucking teeth kicked in. So you're going to have to play dirty because the stakes are so high. And
this is exactly how both sides feel about the other, which is the problem of everyone just being so blind to the theory of mind on the other side. Because the Republicans say the same thing about the Dems. This is exactly literally word for word what they say.
And then the liberals say that if you think that these two things are equivalent, you need to have your head checked because they're obviously worse. This is what they say, right? And then they run down their list of things. But like that start at like Trump, right? Because Trump is become the emergency that they need to,
the never-ending emergency.
The never-ending emergency, right?
Yeah.
So, and I would agree with you, because I don't know that you win by becoming the thing you hate. I don't know that, like,
you also can't fight with your hands tied behind your back. There's a good faith interpretation and some truth to all of this, right? Yeah. And
but I also don't think. Yeah, I just don't think that, like, I don't know how effective it's going to be. And
well, that's the thing.
Long run, and politics is, and then we can probably not get into this today with this whole like, well, these are your preferences, that whole like argument where it ends down, well, these are just your guess what? Politics is a fucking popularity contest, and it's all about what people want, and you have to appeal to what they want, and it's about their preferences, and they don't care how logically consistent you are, or you know what I mean, like how many hypocrisies, like they want what they want, and you have to kind of convince them of that in the political realm anyways, right? Like nobody cares if everything that they want completely lines up. They're interested in, you know, politically things that will benefit them and the community around them. But I don't know if this is what this group of people broadly is going to want, like Democrats. Maybe some of them definitely will be willing to go that route, but not everybody.
And this is the type of thing that I basically don't make predictions about, because I just like don't want to be wrong. I'm wrong so often, but like Wick firmly believe the Democrats are not going to go for this. And there are a lot of people who I think have made a strong case that these bases are different in some fundamental ways, and they're not going to react the same way. There is this interesting phenomenon of like Plattner's popularity. I mean, I don't know what to believe. I guess that's the problem too. And so maybe we should just take all of it with a grain of salt, because there's a million different pollsters, you know. But it seems that like being directly advised of some of these scandals increases maybe even just short-term popularity in like the younger cohort of people. I want to talk a little bit about Ben Shapiro did some commentary on this that I think was interesting. So I'm putting a pin in that, and someone will have to remind me to get back to it. But just back to the conversation from last night a little bit. And people were talking about this in the chat, but I do think it bears repeating. That she's right, girl. She 2 times tried to hold me accountable for suicides in her life.
Yeah, I have let's pull it up.
Okay.
Can we pull it up? Is that okay?
Yeah, let's pull it up. Yes, because I want to talk about the response too. So
let's pull it up. Okay. Let's start with this one. Oh. Hold on. Give me 1 second, guys. That's the other one. Just change them.
By the way, she's in this corner, right? And she has her background like blurred out, and it's like also blurring out half of her face.
Okay.
And my wife came over and she's reading the chat, right? She's like out of the camera, but she's on the side reading it. And she's like pointing, asking me questions at everyone on the panel. And so I'm like pointing to the panel and just like, I'm muted talking to my wife. My wife couldn't tell if she's right was trans. Like she thought that was a trans woman. which like
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It was just funny. And then it was funny that after that she goes and accuses me of murdering her trans friend. Which I thought just like, I mean, you're gonna play this. I'm excited for you to play it and for us to watch it.
Here.
But it actually really caught me from out of left field because the conversation was like friendly enough before that, and like very shortly before that, if I'm remembering the chronology correctly, I was like agreeing with her. Like I had responded directly to what she said, and I said I think that's a really good insight, and I think about it in a very similar way. Like, and I was just so caught off guard by this.
It was fucking
yeah.
Okay, let's just play it, and then I have a few. So we'll start with that one. Hold on.
Tali, my trans friend killed herself because of the man you empowered. Are you sorry?
As someone who was formerly a therapist, I think it is very dangerous to attribute suicidal motivations to any single person or event. So I'm terribly sorry that your friend killed themselves. That's horrible.
Herself.
Absolutely horrible. Okay, you didn't state the gender,
yes,
so I didn't know. Okay, then I didn't hear it. I heard you say my trans friend.
Well,
that's what I heard.
Tali said something allegedly transphobic. That's crazy. I wouldn't expect that from her.
I didn't. It's okay. It's fine.
Tali.
Okay, so that's the first one. That was fucking insane. And Soy Pill with the little, Tali seems to be trans. Motherfucker.
Also, playing it back, I got it wrong. She
like
did say, she said she, but like, okay, I heard you say my trans friend, and I didn't want to fucking just shut the fuck up with the, it's she. Oh my Jesus fucking Christ. And then, yeah, Soy Pill coming in.
Bitch, we're on a fucking panel. I didn't hear you. Exactly perfect. Like,
yeah.
Okay, like that was unhinged. It was unhinged. Like
I just want to say, just sorry to reiterate that is actually like I actually studied from a clinical psychology doctorate, and this is just like literally and specifically what you are taught. Like I remember when like the 13 Reasons Why, when that whole like series came out on Netflix or whatever about like the teenager who commits suicide and leaves like letters blaming all of the people in the town or the friend group or whatever for it. We like spent so much time talking about this in my program because it really is like so most people who are suicidal, who are going to actually bring themselves to kill themselves, have a lot of things going on. It is extraordinarily rare for one specific discernible action to result in someone immediately killing themselves. People also don't usually, it's not usually, anyway, people often plan their suicides. Like it's just not a type of reactionary thing typically. And it's just very dangerous to attribute this to people or places, because then you can also influence people. Suicide unironically is contagious in this way. And that's why there are all of these best practices about how you're supposed to report on these things to the public. I mean, again, where I live in Hawaii, there was like a person who killed themselves jumping off of this like cliff, basically. And the news reported on it in a pretty irresponsible way. And there were like several other people in the following weeks who killed themselves on that same cliff, because it does have this like literally contagious characteristic to it. So my defensiveness there was completely sincere with how I have been trained as a therapist to deal with attributions of suicide, and also dealing with suicidal people when I was a therapist. So it really fucking pissed me off, because it's just inappropriate to do. And you don't know that. I'm so sorry. Like you're
that can't be. But can we go to the second one?
Yeah.
And then I have one more right after. So no. Let's just get them done.
Yeah, because of the program cuts in the big bad bill, my disabled mother, whose healthcare would be cut out with no alternatives, took her life on November 1st. Are you sorry, Tali?
Am I sorry for the loss of your mother? Of course, that's terrible. You can't keep trying to pin the death of people in your life to me.
Are you sorry for voting to enable this?
I'm very sorry for the death of your mother. I'm terrible.
This woman's fucking psycho.
Crazy. And also, like, again, I know this is very touchy. And like there could be people in the chat, right, who have experienced suicide in their families and stuff like that. it's not rational or reasonable to kill yourself because you might lose access to your health insurance. There
Or
are like
even if you
literally
did-
500 million things that you do before then. And if that is your response, then you are suffering from other things. Like, again, a mentally healthy, stable, supported person. And I'm not even trying to victimize him too, because good people who have lots of support in their family kill themselves, right? It doesn't mean that there's no one around who's trying to help you or whatever. But your mom had other issues going on. If she
Yes.
killed herself and left behind her children and all of this stuff because she might lose access to her health care.
Yeah. I think she said she had lost access to her healthcare, and if her mother was unstable and needed the healthcare, there are things, and there maybe are policies that made those crises worse, but that does not make it okay. That does not make it rational. That does not make it a one-to-one causation. That does not allow you to take the death and the tragedy of the loss of these lives and use it as a weapon for people who made a different fucking calculation about politics to try to shame them.
It's also
maybe you need to look inwards and see what you're dealing with, and like where you feel that, I don't know, you fell short on things, because it's not out here in that audience. And that was like absolutely insane. And then she goes on fucking 20 minutes later, and I have that clip too. I
don't even remember what you're referencing now, but I'm excited to watch.
But okay, hold on. It's here. Let's see. I think, where are we? Let me just
even people who agreed with her, who were like shitting on me the whole time, were like, that was crazy. Like, that's not the way to do it. Oh, then the other people, of course, were like, but it's true. And speak your truth and whatever. But yeah, there were some people who were like, that's weird.
Yeah,
don't do all that.
Hold on,
yeah, inappropriate.
Yeah, hold on.
It's so inappropriate.
It really is. Okay, where are we? 223. 32. Okay, let's just
for Trump as your president.
Did Destiny
Holy
teach you
smokes,
that
we're
line?
asking which
I'm
Trump
genuinely
do you prefer?
curious. Yes,
that,
yes. Which
that is
Trump do
the
you
actual
prefer?
question. Which Trump do you
one?
prefer?
This is a very easy
2016 Trump,
question.
absolutely, because
Okay.
we had people to block it. Yeah.
Talibot?
So maybe I'm interpreting the question differently from Wick. If we're talking about comparing the administrations, the presidencies, then yes, I would prefer 2016 Trump. But in terms of like the candidate, there were more appealing people around him. Yeah, for me personally in 2024. But I would agree that the first administration was.
That's wild. But okay. All right.
I know.
Alice?
I'm just telling you how I feel. I don't know.
Did you really vote for him 3 times?
For him 1 time.
Okay.
Alice?
Wait. Can we
No, let Alice answer
wait, Tali,
the question.
but after Tali, which people were better in 2020?
Let Alice answer the question.
Maybe 2024 on account of the Supreme Justice picks that occurred during the first term and the consequential greater harms that have enabled him later on. This is a term when he's dying of illness and old age. And it's expiring quickly and will be quickly flipped back.
I just feel like he's
And then bitch goes and prefers 2024 Trump, the killed her mom and her fucking trans friend. Get fucked. Get fucked.
Yeah. I know. I didn't realize that when it came up, but you messaged me after. Right. And then she literally chooses, in her own words, the version of Trump that murdered half of the people in her life. Yeah.
It makes me so mad. Like,
yeah. I know. And it's just, this just occurred to me too with like, this like, bringing it up is crazy and inappropriate, and it makes me like, it almost minimizes it. Like, you're almost like making it cheap when you use it in that way. Well, I have several thoughts in a way that like, and I know I said this on this show maybe a couple of weeks ago, that I had a friend who was murdered on October 7th at the Nova Festival. And very often I don't talk about him, not in spaces like these, but very often I don't. Because again, it's like, it's a weird, like cheap thing to use in a debate. but also because people are really cruel. And like every time that I've posted his picture online, people
Yeah,
comment terrible things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm like protective of his memory in that way, that I don't just use it as a cudgel or as a weapon in a conversation, because that's really disgusting and he means a lot more than that.
Yes.
So very bizarre behavior to do that. But it also just occurred to me that so back when I was doing my PhD, I was studying microaggressions, which is very important, very serious, very real. But to your point of like, you can't blame someone who voted differently than you for the death of your mother and your friend. But if you do, then you are blaming roughly 80 million Americans, which means you are walking around in a paranoid state most of the time, which again is the conclusion that I came to about microaggressions. Is the more time you spend thinking and focusing on microaggressions, you are literally constantly ruminating and triggering yourself. And you're meeting people, strangers that you don't know anything about, and you're assuming things. You're falsely mind reading and attributing all of these negative or scary things that they're thinking or believing about you. And that's what she's doing. So besides for the fact that I thought it was horrible and inappropriate, it's not like this is not a healthy way to live.
No, it's not healthy, but it's not even sincere. If you really believe that, then you wouldn't prefer the fucking second term, unless you're like, there is no calculation, unless like you just didn't value your mother and your friend, right? Like, just imagine thinking that, and then imagine saying, like, those things they don't make sense. It's just a weaponization. And yes, I very much understand the like not using the death of a person. I had somebody who died in my life a long time ago, and for years I used that death as an excuse, as a reason, as all these things. And like, I got older, I did some therapy, I kind of like came to and realized these things, and I was so fucking disgusted with myself. You know what I mean? Like, having done that, having cheapened the meaning of their death to like this excuse that I could have so I could go fucking do whatever I wanted, and not have to be accountable to anybody. So I could just, well, my friend died, so I guess I get to go, do cocaine for 10 years and fucking party and become a fucking degenerate. Oh, well.
Yeah.
So when I realized it, it was horrifying. Right. So yeah, I don't bring that up anymore, because like there's just something so perverse about it.
Yeah. It's dirty. It's a little dirty to do.
Like that. And there's a different way to share things that is not like that is respectful. And that
even the way she, right. And I know like in her mind, because she was like defending herself in Wick's chat in the Discord after. And first of all, it's so funny. I love like I really need to just not read the chat, because I'm like giving in too much to this, like I'm getting one guided by people who aren't even talking to me. But I do find it funny that everyone calls me low IQ, which is just like, well, there's a couple of reasons why I find it funny.
Well, you're an Ashkenazi Jew, so don't worry.
Right. Well, I'm just not low IQ. Like, you could think I'm like silly dumb or whatever. And I'm not the smartest person in the fucking world, but I'm just not low IQ. I don't know what to tell you. Like, so that's just not true. But the second funny part about it is that they don't believe in IQ. They don't believe that it's a valuable, useful, predictive measure. Yes. They believe that it's a racist measure. They believe that people who believe in IQ too much are race scientists. So there is something kind of hilarious about all of these lefties who, again, if you ever actually tried to, because I've had the IQ this is one of the isms and ists that got thrown at me when I was early in this space. I went on Kyla's stream and we started talking about IQ stuff and race differences. And by the way, my interest in IQ stuff is not racial differences. And my whole point is that it's not the race. It's the fact that these things are genetic. And so things are going to cluster more people who are related to each other. And it's not a one-to-one. You can have two brilliant parents who have a very dumb kid and two very dumb parents who have a very smart kid, right? Blah, blah, blah. But I got like so much pushback, even by Kyla, who's like edgy left in a way, you know, like she's got like a little bit of a
Yeah.
right wing, you know, she's obviously on the left and comfortably on the left. But like I got a lot of pushback from Kyla and a ton of pushback from the audience. And I still get called a race scientist when I come up in some of these chats, right? Not that I'm a scientist.
Yeah.
Oh, you think I'm a scientist? But but yeah, so that's like no, IQ is actually extremely well researched, Sneed. It's
You
one
said
of
it's IQ very well researched, not it
oh, isn't. Oh,
Isn't it?
yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Yes, no, it is. And it's one of those things. There's a small but concerning group of scientific questions that essentially you're not allowed to ask anymore because the results might be offensive or uncomfortable or inconvenient. I mean, some of the trans stuff totally falls in this bucket too. But yes, IQ is like the biggest one in this bucket, and many earnest people's lives have been absolutely ruined for trying to study IQ. But yeah, I guess it is actually funny to me because none of these people believe in IQ, but they're so happy to call everyone low IQ, which is also like
to be
kind
fair,
of like
I
a
think
right wing
they just
insult.
yes, it is. I think they just
They
mean
do.
that, like, they
Sure.
just mean you're dumb, but like they don't even understand like why, because you disagree with me and you don't see it my way, and you could present all of the fucking like you could explain where you see things differently, and they just will not
Right.
accept it. You know what I mean?
No, it's true.
And those conversations, like on an individual level, I think that they can happen. But like in this space, it's like everyone has their own heads so far up their fucking ass that they refuse to concede on anything because because what are all the fucking left and libs saying? What is their messaging? Their messaging is all of these people are bad. Vote blue no matter who. This is what we're doing. They can't give on it, right? Like their entire fucking content machine and discussions and everything relies on it. So there is no genuine discussion around it. Like this is what this is just what it looks like, because people don't act like this when you talk to them in real life. I refuse to believe that these people sit down and talk to people and act like this. Like,
Kay, you actually just hit on something. You just hit on something though that I think like that I need to strongly consider. Because to your point of people don't act like this in real life, and when you can get someone one-on-one, I think that's how I've been severely I've been misdirected, personally self-directed in the wrong direction. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that is like the ethos that brought me to want to talk about these things. You know, as we've said on the show, it's like creating a permission structure to think differently and to break the group think and to question things that are a little bit uncomfortable and whatever, and that you don't have to be a bad person to do that, right? You don't have to be a bigot to ask questions and whatever. And so I think I really do go into like most spaces hoping that I'm going to get that kind of conversation where we're both going to be like reasonable and generosity of spirit, believe the other person is a thoughtful enough person, right? And so I am hoping to have these conversations that, to your point, the reason that they're more effective in real life is because you can like be more, you can like be more, you're not, that's true. You're not being recorded
and posted, and you don't have to like, they're not being fucking recorded. And this is like, and then used against you. If you said something here and it's not 100% on track with what you said before, like the fucking, the need for people to be fucking consistent 100% of the time, all the time, is fucking garbage. People just aren't unrealistic like that. People just don't go through life with this level of fucking consistency on everything. People ebb and they flow depending on the day and you know what they're feeling, their intuitions and their and you can still have a principle and the things that influence that can be weighed differently. So you could be like, because usually it's not one factor, you know, it's influenced by context and things that are going on around it. So you can still even be principled and over time, or depending on certain things, kind of be see things in a different way, or maybe give a little bit more here, maybe not completely divorced from it, right? But like you might not be as rigid with it in some ways.
Well, and
this is
even
what
in the
drives me
most,
crazy.
of course, and even in the most obvious ways that I feel like, while I disagree with Dev in his determination of like where we are chronologically in the need for political violence, Dev kind of makes this point. You can be principled, very sincerely principled against political violence or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, and it's a similar thing with like, you know, you can be principled in defense of democracy, but at a certain point, right, if you're letting too many illiberals into your liberalism, right, like you might have to break some of your principles of free exchange liberalism to get rid of the people who are trying to undermine you, right? Like in these, so there's just like, it's obvious in the ways that this has limitations, to your point, and people cannot always be perfect, and sometimes being consistent might mean being inconsistent in a, you know, in some short-term way or whatever. So I think that's true. But yeah, I think that's basically how I treat my online conversations. And really, I should not, because almost no one has that intention. And I guess it's not fair too. And maybe I am just like, I'm not.
I mean, it depends where you go, right? Like we can have those conversations.
Here we do marketplace of ideas. We do. Even when I'm just like talking to Wick, me and Wick can have great thoughtful conversations.
There are places that it can happen, but like like to their, you know, how they're like, well, they're playing this game and we're playing that game. It's unfair. If you're going to go try and have a good faith conversation with somebody like Soy Pill, who's just trying to like snipe at you, and he doesn't seem interested in any overtures, or you know what I mean, that you may have, I don't know what you've done over time. Maybe you like poked him and made it worse. I don't know, but
the Soy Pill of it all.
Yeah, maybe he, you know, he doesn't seem, he just seems to keep fucking, it's very annoying. And just as somebody who's seen you go through these conversations like over and over, it's not that I don't think you handle them. I am just like, I think you have so many more interesting things to say that it's like so frustrating to hear them over and over, to have to defend the same fucking shit to people who aren't even interested in the answer. Like,
I know they literally actually don't care.
Yeah, that's just like, oh my God, we're doing this again. And I get like exasperated on your behalf. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it.
No, I know.
Right?
And you're right.
But
I'm
just
just
saying
exactly
like,
how to handle it. Especially because with Soy Pill in particular, it's just like obviously a joke for him. In a way, like he's just having fun, you know? Like he's jumping in. He mutes and talks to his chat. So he's like literally not even listening to what people say back to him, right? He actually doesn't care and doesn't pretend to care. Yeah, I don't know what the hell to do about Soy Pill. Because again, I really don't want to back down and to be perceived as backing down, you know? Like I'm not gonna be the person like, oh, Soy Pill's coming in, I'm leaving. I really don't want to be that person, rather, right?
No, but that's why you have to,
and
like,
somehow I know, and I said this on the head. And this is why Kay opened the show with "you fucking asshat" or whatever, because I said like somehow I obviously expect this from Soy Pill. It's how he literally always behaves around me, right? And yet every time I'm still a little surprised. I'm like still caught off guard every time. I don't know why. Every time I think because, and I was saying this to Kay, I don't know where me and Soy Pill stand. I don't know how much of this is a show for him, because this is like his shtick online, because we've DM'd before and like he'll, you know, like my posts and we'll reply to each other's tweets and stuff. And so I'm like, oh, okay, there's some nice interactions here, you know, but then he treats me like an actual piece of garbage. And it's not like woe is me or whatever. And it's not like, it's not that I think that we're friends, but I guess I'm actually confused, and maybe I need to just take the way that he treats me more often as the truth here, essentially, right? In a way to just have a little more dignity in these situations. But Kay's advice was just to punch back, basically, because I really don't name call very often. Like,
well, yeah,
I
and
try
like
to just
any
answer
social niceties. Yeah,
and
well, and it depends, like, right, maybe with some people like that you've never spoken to before, they'll come in hot and you won't respond like that because it's the first time you've ever interacted with them, and you don't need to immediately, be on the defensive like that. But I think if it's like happened enough times, like you don't owe the respectable like response anymore, right? So that's why I was like, just go, hey, fuck face, or
Right.
whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like that's one that I
Right.
happen to like. But like whatever it is,
Yeah.
and any like social niceties that there are, any type of like parasocial reciprocity, if you will, or whatever we want to call it in this space.
Right.
If it's just contingent on you not being a bitch back when he's an ass, then
Right.
you probably don't.
It's not
like,
worth it.
I don't know if you want that anyway,
Right.
right? But
Yeah.
I just think that that's it. And I think it's one thing to be like, you're dumb and you don't know what you're doing, and look at this, you're making bad political choices, and can't you see what I see? Those I don't know that I would care very much, but it's like, you don't care about trans people, you're a bad person, you don't care about people that you're hurting, you're like essentially evil or bad, or like these like calls against like the essence of your character and who you are as like a moral human, not just like you're silly and you're wrong and your fucking calculations are dog shit. I don't care about that. But like, you are essentially a bad person. That shit's like, no, you should probably like punch back about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because as long he doesn't need to, you guys aren't going to agree politically, right? Like you see the world differently, but like this idea that because you see the world differently, like that I don't know, makes you like a uniquely evil and bad person is just ridiculous. And that's worth fighting on, because that's definitely worth a fight.
Yeah. And I think to a certain extent, again, like part of me is just hoping, like, again, back to why I ever started talking on the internet, is like my thoughts and of course we all think that we are reasonable and thoughtful, right? We think good things about ourselves. But my thoughts were like, I'm a normal and relatable person, right? And that, again, if anyone just listens to me, and this is going back to like my psychologizing myself here. I mentioned this a few episodes ago or whatever. I feel like, I have some child wound. I'm mostly joking here, but about like I feeling need to be understood. So I do have this like belief that if someone just like listens to me long enough, they're going to understand that I'm caring and compassionate and thoughtful. But even if they don't agree with me, they could never misinterpret my intentions if they just listen to me long enough. And no, some people are just completely determined and intent on misinterpreting your
committed
intentions.
to,
right. And it does bother me, but it also doesn't. And maybe because just like anyone who was sort of anti-woke, close to peak woke, you just get used to being called a horrible person, and you like learn how to sleep at night. And so that's the thing, is like, luckily, I truly nothing that these people say in these conversations makes me like think like, fuck,
I wonder if I'm like,
right, exactly. Like it truly does not penetrate 1 second, because I know myself. I just do. And the calling me dumb thing again doesn't bother me either. But there is something about, because also I believe to be true, and I think it is true, that basically I could have been swapped out. And if I was any Trump voter put on that panel, was going to receive a lot of the same backlash. And and that is true. And I know that because just go and look at any of these channels when they talk to other right wingers or whatever, the comments are the same nastiness and whatever. So I know I can like expect that. I do feel like I get it from particular people, like especially so, like maybe more so than someone else would have in the position. I don't know. But this thing about, so back to the point of like, kind of, you could have plugged me out for any Trump voter. And it goes back to the microaggressions thing. There is like a real sickness of how many people in the comments too. It's like anyone who voted for Trump in 2024 should not be trusted to ever have a conversation or ever vote again or make any decision. And it's just like, you think really, 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 really well, really poorly about half the country, and which I can understand to a certain extent because I'm also on board with like the voters are the problem in some of these ways, right? Not that the solution can be entirely top down, but people love populism, and I think
But
populism
they're
is
just
fucking
parroting
retarded,
their
right?
fucking favorite streamers. That's the problem, right?
No,
They're
it's
just
true.
parroting these fucking people who are making these arguments.
But it's
So,
deranged, and it's not healthy for you to sit around thinking that way and believing that literally half the country is actually
No.
retarded and evil. That is so it's
course
so
not.
unhealthy, and it's not accurate. And yeah, it's just like, how do these people function in the real world?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think some of them feed into stuff online, right? Like I don't know if all of these people function like this in the
Do
real
this
world.
in the real world.
I think chatters more than like content creators probably may be more apt to function like, you know, poorly in the real world. But I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
because they make avatars. Like I said, you become like the polarized effigy, right? It's just like you become the thing to hate for them. So, like these people,
Oh,
you
yeah.
are not a real person. You are literally the polarized effigy that they can take all their hate out on or whatever. And like no one is real online in these spaces.
Yeah.
So I think people are probably a little bit better in real life because they hear people talking about things other than politics and like doing their life, hopefully. But everything is political now, right? Like everything has this gloss of like politics to it, or like that kind of there's political language infused in like so much of what we do every day now in a way that like I don't remember it being like that.
Yes.
Before.
Yeah. And there's this like, I don't know if irony is the right word, and this is a live thought, so I don't know how it's gonna how good it'll be. But there's like something interesting about them like twisting themselves into knots to make all of these, to your point, policy preferences, differences in votes and worldview. They twist themselves into knots to make these be moral failings, essentially, right? But then they like cannot acknowledge these like other blatant and explicit moral failings of their leaderships, of their movement, and all of this stuff. So there's like some irony or something in there. Yeah, I don't know. It's like it's like it was fun, and then I spent like time after talking to people in Wix chat, in Wix Discord, and it really does, I think, very often just come down to this theory of mind thing. And again, maybe the only reason that I feel that I have a competent theory of mind of the left is because that is where I come from, right? I spent so much time thinking in that way. And I'm a red person in a blue area, right? And I've always lived in blue areas. So like I have, you know, that is what I know and understand. But they like literally cannot understand. Even I was seeing in some of the comments, like someone was like, you know, everyone likes to make my political change be that like someone was mean to me, you know, that type of thing or whatever. Or so someone was like, there's like a few things that she doesn't like that the Dems do, and so she like jumps ship for, you know, this evil whatever. And FICO. And she sorry, I got distracted by my wife saying goodbye to me. But there's this like, they actually just do believe that every single person would and should agree with all of their policy prescriptions. Yeah. And so they were like asking me like, well, what don't you agree with, like from like the Democrats? And I had just like a giant list of things that to them are just like incredible. And then they were spending like 20 minutes arguing with me about like Medicare for all and like a public option and all of this stuff, because they could not understand why that would not be instantly appealing to someone.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it gets into a whole conversation about affirmative action and the Voting Rights Act and minimum wage, and they actually do just believe that every normal person would obviously agree with their policy prescriptions. They actually cannot understand. You could only vote Republican if you're a bigot in some way or a reactionary, or there are no reasons for any person to oppose their policy prescriptions.
Yes, but that, like, those people have never thought about anything, right? This is like one of the things I've said, like, they've adopted like these political views. They haven't like come to them after careful consideration a lot of the time. They've like adopted it, but like there's not a lot of scaffolding under it. They can't, like, when you start giving them a reason why that you may not like Medicare for all, right, for example, or a public option, and start explaining things like that, like they
or
don't
what I
have
think the trade-offs might be, or why this
like,
doesn't.
They're not like, it's not like they've ever considered most of the time. Maybe not all. I'm not saying always, guys. Okay, I'm saying the majority of the time. When I see those conversations happen, these people, like, there's not like a thoughtful back and forth about like, oh, okay, I understand that this concern, but like, how about we do this, or how about we do that, or how about, like, it just kind of like, but like, healthcare is a right. It kind of flattens into these like cliche types of things.
Well,
and that's
and
not everybody, but that's a lot of
no, it's not
right?
everybody,
Like,
but it's a lot of people. And there is just something about it that, like, again, my life and the way I view the world like changed a lot in the last 5 years. So fine. But they all just start from this premise that we are entitled to a bunch of things that we're not. We're not. Human, like, everything that you have was built and created for you, like, including the like fruit tree in your backyard. Like, that probably wasn't there, right? At some point, like, someone planted that there, and like, so that, I mean, even the tree, the fruit that you're pulling off the tree, right? Like, it didn't just fucking appear there. It is this like, even when we were having the conversation about minimum wage and stuff like that, and they're talking about, and they're being so casual, and they're talking about like, oh, obviously like paid family leave, and I'm like, you want to require small businesses to pay employees up to 2 years of leave?
Yeah.
Sorry, that's anti-business. Like, that is just, you're going to, and then, oh, okay, fine. Well, we won't hurt the business. We will subsidize this program through the government. Okay. So again, you are not just entitled to these things, even if some of these things like would be nice. And by the way, like, this is also what pisses me off so much, that people like have this horrible theory of mind of business owners. Of course, you're always going to get corrupt people and greedy people and selfish people. Sure, all of that is true. But like, I remember I went the long schooling path, right? I went after college, went on to get a PhD, but all of my friends at that point were getting their entry-level jobs in Manhattan, right? For Discovery and ABC and whatever. And these jobs are competing with each other to have the best work environment. They just are. They're giving them exceptional packages and comped meals every day and a beer party every Friday. And during the summers, you get to leave work at 1 o'clock. These jobs are competing with each other to have the best packages available. Like, there are ways that do not require government intervention and extreme taxation to like make people's lives better. And you will just tank small businesses. Even people don't even understand like what increasing minimum wage, let alone paid family leave, what increasing minimum wage does to small businesses. Like,
I agree. But I just want to say, like, there is an argument, right? Or there is like, there is a way to see things that like the government is already involved in your lives so much and has such an ever-present place in the day-to-day activities that it has created a world that is stifling, that limits people, that is causing, we could use the word harm, and it is not allowing people to, it's not creating a world that is facilitative or whatever to human thriving. And therefore, if the government is going to be doing all these things and getting in the way of people, I don't know, living freely, then they owe the people because of that. So that is where, and there is something to that, right? There is something to, the government has put in place things that we have to adhere to, and in return they do owe some things to people, like certain types of safety nets. We're not just all like, you know, walking around like doing whatever we want, and in return that they give us something back for it, but that has to be limited. And then when we want to talk about pulling these things back on a state level or however it is, like whatever, like these things need to be talked about like carefully and how to do it, right? And but there is something to the fact that the government does owe us something, because it is taking something away from us, and that's not nothing, right? And I just see a lot of people look over that kind of in a way that like irks me. And this was one.
I'm not the most
when
extreme
Ryan
libertarian on this
and
issue, but
and when Ryan and Eucharist were talking, Philip, what that his name? He mentioned some interesting, like was talking to that in a way.
Keep talking, but I'll be right back.
I was like, I want to hear more about these types of solutions, and how do we like look at where we are in a practical, rational, and pragmatic way, and what the government has done, and what, like, you know, there's some reliance created in some ways, but like, how do we pull it back, and what does that look like, and how to start doing that. But that is, you know, it is not, you know, it's not the easiest thing to do, and I don't think it's like a very, those conversations do not seem to be happening very often, you know. But I just want, you're muted.
No, continue.
But I just wanted to like, I do want to like be fair and put like some of the other, you know what I mean, the other point of view.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and to your point that I think you made on this, I think it was on this show, I don't remember when, but like you have to, if the people more like us want to be successful and don't want to just initiate a backlash response, then doing this is going to require holding people's hands through it, right? And doing it sort of stepwise, cutting these things down. Yeah, so I'm definitely with you there. But yeah, I don't know, the conversation, and
there
the conversation,
is, there is a huge amount of like entitlement when people talk about
there is
to a degree that is so overblown and so disproportionate to what they contribute to the system, mostly.
Yes.
That the system could not obviously thrive and do well having to support all these people like this, because like human nature is, people are going to try and, I don't know, probably like get the most out of the system that they can sometimes, right? So there are, clearly there has to be some type of balance.
Right. And to a certain extent, you can't blame people like taking advantage of the system that is there for them. Right. But yeah, it's like, it is that people believe that they are entitled to a lot of things. And some of this, like, again, I don't want to be so, because I believed all of this stuff too. And there's a myriad of different factors that shifted my perspective on this. And so I don't want to be like so condescending, but there is like a portion of people who just, it seems like don't really understand the way the world works. Again, not to be so condescending, but to believe that actually, yes, like you should, these things are rights, right? Like nothing that needs to be created and provided and service to you is a right at all. Like, unless you believe in slave labor and like, imprisoning people, basically, there's no other way that anyone's going to be. And even that, it's like, fucking shit costs money. Like, you're going to have to feed the slaves that, you know, and all. It's just, the whole thing is silly. So part of it is entitlement, and another part of it is just a naivete about how the world works. And this ties into some of the homeless stuff because, you know, to your point, it's true. Like the government especially because they're taking our taxes and stuff, and so it's reasonable to have some expectation of the government looking out for its citizens. And Graham Fandango said, and I agree, the government has a vested interest in producing the best possible citizens. Leaving them floundering doesn't do that. 100% agree. And it's like, to the point, it's like, you don't want the person out there who is hard on their luck and went through some bad thing, but is a motivated person who wants to climb their way out of it, whatever. You don't want that person dying on the side of the road. But also there are people who are dying on the side of the road who absolutely refuse any assistance if it means any limitations to their freedoms to be a degenerate. And I say degenerate, and that's a loaded term. And a lot of these people that I'm talking about, like there's a lot of sympathy that we could afford them. They've become degenerate because of excessive substance use and mental illness that's untreated. And by the way, like, living on the street and using drugs can induce severe mental illness. I mean, living on the when I worked with severely mentally ill homeless people as a case manager, these are things that maybe is obvious to everyone here, but you don't think about necessarily when you're not the homeless person. But homeless people stay up all night because it's not safe to be asleep in the dark when you can't protect yourself. So these are people who are like not even on the same circadian rhythm as everyone else. They're fighting their body. They're sleeping during the day because there's going to be people. They're going to go to a populated area where there's other people around. So they have a layer. And this is totally rational, by the way. This is survival. This is a survival technique, right? So they're awake and walking around and getting into trouble at night.
Yeah.
And they are sleeping and clogging up the fronts of businesses and roadways and sidewalks during the day. And it's very hard to be healthy in that type of setting. But also, especially if we're living in a society where you're not allowed to forcibly remove these people from the street, they are going to refuse help. So many of these people refuse help, or you get them help and they like can't follow through. And I know everyone says you got to throw more services. When I was a case manager, we would go out searching for them on the street, put them in our cars to drive them to doctor's appointments, to drive them to government buildings so that they could get copies of their social security because none of them have any of their documentation. Get them IDs, right? There is so much money and so many people and agencies out there who will do all. And by the way, with the ID thing, of course, the company that I worked for paid for these IDs too. So none of these people have to pay for anything. We will set them up with Social Security. We will, if they can't be trusted to monitor their money, which many of them cannot be, we will put it in a third party basically account so that we can like you're a child, help you and give you little bits of money, you know, that you can try to manage. And still so many of these people cannot, will not, it's very sad, but get out of this. And so this is what I mean by the left, just like not being naive about reality, basically.
Well, these people like don't understand like addiction and severe mental illness in intimate ways. It would appear because if you're going to deal with things like that, you just you really need long-term inpatient care for some people who have to go in and be detoxed and dry out and be under medical supervision and given medications potentially for a while and have we're talking at least 3 to 6 months of supervised living. And this is on 3 to 6, that's probably for some people, they're going to need communal living and they cannot be alone, and they just do better. They will do better in a rehab type, in a communal type setting for a while, because a lot of the people just, they need they need parents, even though they're adults, they need a grown-up in charge of them.
They do
for a good long time until they develop any type of
and we placed people in all of these places, right? You can be placed into a care home, which is almost like a halfway house type of situation where there's like someone who runs it, and then a bunch of people who are living there. And in these care homes, there will be nurses and stuff like that are coming in all throughout the day to make sure people are getting their medications. And yeah, we would bring people to, there's a bunch of like tiny home facilities. There was even like at one point during COVID, there was like kind of a tent city, but like a government created, so it was nicer than that, and it was in a specific area and whatever. But yeah, there and there are a lot of people out there working really hard every day to make the best for these people, but there you can't help everyone. And that's again goes back to my whole thing is like, not everyone's gonna succeed. Not everyone not everyone deserves to make $25 an hour. Like what, not every job requires that. Like it is just such it feels so out of touch with reality, so many of these proposals, and just kind of unfalsifiable beliefs to a certain extent, because we're like never gonna even get to what they want, right? Because it's just not possible, or at least I don't think we're going to. So they're never gonna have to find out that it would still fail. But to the point of some people in the chat,
they're always looking for the fucking, this is what drives me insane though. They're always looking for the perfect solution, the perfect justice, the perfect, that they want like they want the solution of all the solutions. Do you know what I mean? They want the end solution. And it's like, no, you get the better solution now, and then you gotta wait and you gotta see what happens. And then you get a better solution after that, and a better one after that. And actually, you don't get the great solution here now, because here's the thing. The great solution here now needs the great solution for XYZ problem over there, and the great solution for XYZ over there, and the great solution for ABC over there, in order for this great solution to work. So, and you can't do that, but you can raise them all like a tiny bit. You know what I mean? All these things that are interconnected, you can raise them all a little. And then you gotta wait, and then you can raise them all a little more, and they're not all gonna. It's not gonna get. You're not gonna like fix the problem over here and then be like, great, we did it. Now move on to thing over here, because it's gotta go slowly, kind of all together. And you wouldn't want it, because then they'd be like, well, why do people here have like, why did we solve this problem? That's not fair to these people. Like it's just like, it doesn't make sense, right? But you have to do it in a way that's like, I guess it's like very unsexy and very unappealing in ways to like try and sell solutions that are just like, we're just gonna make that, we're gonna make this a little bit better, and that's all we're gonna do, and this is how we're gonna do it, and this is our metric, and we will know if we did it or not at the end. But that's kind of
the solution.
Like,
yes,
that's
and
like
it
what
needs to,
goal setting is. If you look at like any like realistic, real world goal setting in teams, for people, for therapy, for businesses, for anything like that, that you have they have to be tangible. So
no, and totally. And also like along the lines of therapy, these realistic solutions, right, that are upfront about like just what they won't be able to do and what they might be able to do, need to be paired with we've just like broken everyone into everyone. It's partially this therapy culture stuff. It's partially, I'm sure, another million other things that I can't put my finger on. And this just like paranoid populist wave that we are in right now. Everyone is just like a victim. And again, something that was meaningful to me when I was learning to be a therapist and when I was doing therapy is like, this is so silly, and again, it's like a little condescending, but it's like, this is going to be hard, and like, you can do hard things, and I know that you can do hard things, and so I expect you to do hard things. Like, we can also have high expectations for people, right?
We must have high expectations.
Exactly. In fact, we need to. Right.
Like anybody who's had children knows this, and people, even people who haven't had children, but like anybody who's raised a child and an adolescent, and I'm going through this with my own children. It's like I tell them all the time, I will not do for you what you can do for yourself. I can't do it. Like I can sit
I'm
there
hurting
with
you if I do that.
yeah. It's like literally to your detriment. I'm not going to raise you to be this person who can't get shit done. Like I will not do that. Like you can do the thing. I'm not going to do it. If you want, I'll hold your hand. If you want me to help you figure out how to do it, I can do that. But I'm not going to do it. Like I'm robbing you of your agency and your ability to be a person in the world. And are there times where we have to do things
and it's
for people?
also important.
Yes, but not as the rule. Okay, like,
and it's also important for people to do things on their own so that they realize that they can do them, which again is like part of the therapy thing. It's like people need to understand the agency that they have, which is again why I think like there is like a change that happens even in a small way, even if it's like you see your friend who has a business or whatever, going from the person receiving the paycheck to even just like having a bigger understanding of the people who are like giving the paychecks. I think it just gives you a better understanding of all of this stuff. But yeah, people need to, I don't know, man.
And they need to see that they can. And there's something really
Yes.
There's something really good about knowing that you can do things to take care of yourself.
It helps to build
especially
confidence.
Especially if you've been taught or thought that you couldn't, right? So
yeah,
I mean, those are just like very basic.
It's reminding me of The Coddling of the American Mind, the some points from that book, which is, I haven't read it in a couple of years, but it's a book that I read like 3 times when I first read it because it had a really big impact on me. And again, it's approachable because it's written by a group of liberals, right? You know, and it's like, these are not bad people, but they're saying the thing that like, oh, maybe misgendering is not the biggest crime on earth, you know, and that like, no, I'm totally with you. I don't know. As per usual, I don't know how we got here, but I'm glad we did. I have no idea what turn it. Oh, I guess I was talking about my conversation in the Discord after.
Yeah.
And 2 years leave and stuff like that. Yeah.
Quickly, somebody just said that the reckless Ben said that the GoFundMe got taken down, which is terrible. I also want to say that when I told you about that last week, I could not have explained it worse. It is just too long, though. I
agree. In
chat,
hindsight, when I went and watched it, I was like, oh yeah, I was not prepared for what this was going to be.
I had a talk with ChatGPT about like why can't I tell a story well? Because I was like I don't know how to find the important threads and explain them. It was just too long. I had thought
it is a very convoluted.
I really actually thought you knew about it, so I didn't think I was going to have to explain it.
Right.
But now if you've gone into it, you've kind of seen some of that. So
yeah,
that's been a wild story. And
Sneed McFeed says so many people covered it that I'm sick of it now. I've mostly not watched the people covering it, so I think that's why it's very interesting to me, because I saw the thumbnails, but I hadn't clicked any of them because it just didn't seem like it would appeal to me. And then I just watched the Reckless Ben videos, which that is like much more exciting. So I'm still interested, but it looks like he said that he can't release the 3rd episode because it jeopardizes him in some way with one of these court cases. And I didn't realize this has been going on for like 2 years, which is
I think some of the videos, like in the beginning, I thought they had a timestamp or something on something. Okay. It looked like it was going on for a while now. Which is just wild. Yeah. Did you see, completely different topic, did you see the story about, and I know that it may have all been fake, but the whole like discussion about the abortion of the Down syndrome fetus at 21 weeks?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That kind of like came across my radar, and I was like, oh, that's a very odd thing to share on the internet and expect to get any sympathy for. Like, you know, that I would say that probably should be legal. But I don't know that you want to go be telling everybody that you're practicing eugenics and then expect to get a pat on the back.
Yeah.
Like that's and then apparently the guy
it
is like not like everything he posts online is untrue. Okay. But I still think the sentiments around that, because that does
Well,
happen,
they've like gone
obviously,
out and
right?
given interviews, which they could be in on this together, the couple. But yeah, they've been like talking about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Juggernauts. Like Juggernaut
Yeah.
gets okay, yeah.
And I didn't know anything about this. I think the whole thing is complicated, right? Because like, uh-oh,
That's
did you just choke yourself?
no. Well, he said based in
Drown
Iceland,
yourself?
though, because
Oh.
Iceland there's no more Down syndrome in Iceland,
Right.
because they
Yeah.
just
Well,
aborted all the Down syndrome babies, which I don't know. Not something I would do.
I know. No, and I agree, but I also think it's interesting too, because when you and I have talked about the abortion stuff before, if anything, I think we have similar perspectives, but like you're more pro-choice. I'm sort of ambivalent, but I find the anti-abortion arguments like very compelling. I'm very attracted to the consistency in those arguments, and very turned off by what I see as hypocrisy and sort of emotionality in a lot of the pro-choice arguments. But
Yeah.
this is one that's like complicated, because I like agree with it's just like not a good look, right? It's like you don't like want to be like bragging, and not that they were bragging, but the whole thing is just like, you didn't need to share that. But there's a decent enough point in there.
That's a private conversation. That's like an inside voice, like,
Yes. And I think like I really don't like the way that Richard Hanania talks about this stuff. However, he's on to something with the fetishization, and that's a strong word and a loaded term, but there's like almost a fetishization about severely disabled children in the like very pro-life, more religious community.
Yes, there's a disgusting thing that is done,
and there's
with,
something to
like,
be
very
said about
disabled children. Yes,
right about like, it's like we have kind of like the picture of Down syndrome people that we imagine, and you can have Down syndrome people who are pretty high functioning, right? And you can have Down syndrome people who live happy and fulfilled lives. And you could have other ones who are extremely low functioning and kind of violent and distressed and yeah,
it's
right.
not
Like it's not a walk in the park. And there are like, again, Down syndrome is the one that we all have this like pseudo understanding of.
We
like
all
it's
went
not
to
like
grade
not like a
school
real
with somebody who had Down
right,
syndrome,
exactly. Like you've all like seen a Down syndrome person, but these arguments get even uglier when you're talking about like much more like vicious terminal diseases, right? And so yeah, the whole conversation is like complicated for me. I don't know exactly how I feel about it, but it's like, why on earth did you share that online?
Yeah.
And it's not even like you shared it to I understand the like idea of like sharing your story that could help other people, right? Who have to make a difficult decision like this, but you didn't go into a Facebook group about not that you probably shouldn't go into a Facebook group about raising a child with Down syndrome and tell them that, because that'd probably be triggering. But there's a fucking support group for everything. There's gotta be a support group for parents who abort their babies with severe, illnesses and stuff like that, right?
Yes, I mean, I was in anyway. So hold on. What I will say is this, right? If anything, though, and this is the argument I would make, with medical technology becoming what it is insofar as like finding potential anomalies, chromosomal abnormalities, or like things on scans earlier and earlier, right? And that we see that may turn into something or may not, because sometimes we need time. I think that just makes the case, and this was my experience, right? Was that living somewhere that doesn't have limits on abortion, I was able to I found out something. I found out I essentially found out when I was pregnant with my son that he had an 85% chance of having a chromosomal abnormality or a heart defect, and like an 85% chance that he would die in womb and not be born at all. And if he would be born, he would be born horribly disabled, which is like pretty bad odds. And
it's a huge number. Yeah.
85% is a very big number, right? And yes, this is all anecdotal, but I'm just saying I'm not the only person, right?
Right.
So, and I was like 11 weeks, just about 11 weeks pregnant. Now, if I lived somewhere that didn't have abortions past 12 weeks, then I would have had to make a choice right then, or even at 16 weeks, because like the testing wouldn't have been done by then, to check all of those things out. Now, living somewhere where there is abortion into later in my pregnancy, I was able to have tests done, follow up with doctors, and wait and see how things develop. And it was access to late-term abortion that allowed me to continue a pregnancy and see what was going to happen. And maybe if I was going to have a child that was going to be so horribly disabled that they were going to like just suffer or be born without, like, they were saying that he could be born without like half of his head, or his like skin could be like separated from his, like horrible, terrible things that you wouldn't want to bring a baby into the world to only live for moments, right? I don't potentially, I don't know. I never had to get there, but I definitely I didn't want that. I didn't want to be forced into that either at that point, right? So it was access to that allowed
especially
me to
for people who like want babies too. It's
yes.
Yeah, right.
And I wanted my baby. I didn't want to have. And if you had told me this before as like a thought experiment, I would have just said, oh, I probably should have an abortion and then try again and not go through all that. But like in that moment, I was like, no, this is my baby. I want to give it a chance. So it was access to that allowed me to do that. And I just don't necessarily want that access and those options to be narrowed for people, causing people, and as we have more and more medical like technology that could potentially see things, we might have more like false like positives, if you will, on scans and tests, and people will have abortions earlier for pregnancies that could have been viable.
May not have been necessary. Yeah.
So it's just it's part of something to consider, and that doesn't mean that like
that's a really
okay to go terminate your perfectly healthy 37-week pregnancy. I think that's kind of disgusting, but I also think like
no, it is disgusting. But no, I agree with you.
But you have to find a doctor who's going to do it, and doctors here are just allowed to not do that either. Like it's very difficult to find. People just don't. I have not heard of
shouting of abortion. Yeah,
I think people shout the abortion stuff. I did like a pro-choice demonstration for a while, and people definitely shout their abortions, if you will, but not like they're not shouting like their 38-week, like that's like that's like trauma. Like anyone could like anyway. So yeah, it's just something to think of.
No, yeah, you sparked my brain in a few directions. Well, they're very different directions. I'm really glad you shared that. And I think you shared that with me at least once before. I don't know if you shared it with our loving audience here. But it's hitting me even differently again now, because that is really powerful. It is knowing that you had the option to abort the pregnancy, to terminate the pregnancy, to essentially what you would have been doing is like, what's the word I'm looking for? You'd be euthanizing your baby essentially in a compassionate way, right? As to not so the having that compassionate euthanization, for lack of better terms here, as an option allowed you to carry the pregnancy further to see if that, just how healthy baby might turn out to be. And my wife and I, we kind of stalled a little bit now, and it's related to this stuff, but we want to have a baby, and we've had to like, it's been a very complicated, even just like mental, emotional process for me of like figuring out how we're going to have a baby, because now that I'm like more on the right, or I just have a different point of view, like I've had to think about things that I didn't think about when I was just a pro-queer, whatever activist. I'm not saying that gay people can't be good parents, obviously. I think my wife and I are going to be great parents. You know, I don't think that whatever. But all of this said, I had to like really take into consideration the fact that we are intentionally choosing to raise a child without a father. And there's a 50% chance that this child's going to be, but by the way, daughters and sons need their fathers, right? Or
Yeah.
really benefit from having fathers. I'm not going to say need. There's just like so much evidence that we have, right? And even just like on like the individual level of like being that child who is deprived of having a father, like that's a really, and it's one thing again when this happens sort of out of your control or accidentally or circumstances change, right? You're a woman who gets pregnant and the man dies, whatever. There's so many things that could happen. But my wife and I would have to be
Seeking
very
it out,
specifically choosing it. Yes, exactly. And so I had to like really grapple with that and like. And then I had to think about too, like intentionally, you know, with sperm donation, intentionally depriving them of ever even knowing who their father is, or at least potentially for the first 18 years of their life or whatever, and opening them up to, and again, I'm trying not to say this stuff with judgment because I'm truly not judging other people. This is just the whole process that I went through internally, right? So people who make these decisions are not bad people. There are plenty of healthy, happy, wonderfully well-adjusted people who come from these types of situations. But I had to think about just even like, the idea of like taking a sperm donor and that like my kids could grow up and like go on 23andMe and have like 25 siblings, you know, and like just this like this extra stuff that most people don't have to think about, but that it was suddenly weighing really heavily on me. And so my wife and I and her brother and her brother's wife had multiple conversations and basically decided that my wife's brother would be our sperm donor, which I felt like was really the best possible case scenario, because then baby is related to both of us. They don't have to grow up with like that potential. Not every child of IVF, you know, sperm donor or adoption grows up feeling this kind of loss, but we kind of cut that out. We cut out the questions of where do I come from, you know? And my wife and her brother are best friends. So your uncle, dad can really be in your life in a meaningful way. You know what I mean? So it just, to me, I was like, this is great. This cuts out a lot of those things, those
considerations.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, this is the best case scenario. So we're like working on it and we're both going, getting tested. We're doing all the genetic testing and they're counting my eggs and all of that stuff, right? And everything's looking good. And then it turns out that her brother and I are both carriers of a rare genetic disorder that we have a 25% chance of passing down to the baby. And that's much lower than 85% chance, but that was really hard. Really hard for me to swallow because now I have a whole nother fucking ethical and moral dilemma of what do I do now? And I was given some pretty judgmental advice from one doctor that was like my mom's friend from high school. So he's, you know, like a big shot New York fertility guy. And he basically said like, no, you absolutely don't. You don't have the baby. Like it's wrong. It would be wrong to knowingly bring a baby into this world that could possibly have this condition. Now, the condition in that I'm talking about, it's not a life-threatening condition. We know way more about it now than we did then. It can be treated like immediately. It also like has a much greater impact on females than on males. Like males can be like largely unaffected by it. So that really reduces the rate to like 12.5% because it's a 25% chance that the baby will have it. And then it has to be a girl for it to really have some of these more negative consequences. But so I had like a couple doctors saying that we just shouldn't do it at all, shouldn't try. And then I went out and sought out some women online who have this condition and spoke to them. My wife and I did Zoom conversations with a couple of these women to get their perspective. And it wasn't all rainbows and sunshine, you know, basically what helped me make that decision in talking with my doctor was that we can test for it at around 11 weeks. And then there's like another test they can do, you know, however many weeks after that.
Yeah.
And part of me, this was hard because I was like, I don't think I'm going to want to terminate the pregnancy. I think I'm going to feel really attached to this baby, especially because of like how much intention has to go in it, right? To make this baby. I feel like I'm going to feel really attached. But I do feel like I can go in that direction and kind of take this chance. It
Yeah.
still sounds bad when I'm saying it, but yeah, it does. Like it gives me more room because I could have an abortion, and I could have an abortion very late term. Of course, I wouldn't be waiting that long, essentially,
No,
whatever. But yeah, that does make it like it takes a little bit of the weight off my shoulders to go and try to do this and try to bring this baby into the world and give the baby the best chance possible, especially when the odds are not so high, right? Or not super high. But yeah, abortion, this whole and babies with genetic disorders and all these things is like really, really complicated. And both sides of the argument seem to have a bit of callous disregard for the other, right? It's like yeah. And then that already took way too long for me to tell that story, so I'm sorry. But the second thing that your story kind of reminded me of was this. I watched what's her name? Simone and Malcolm.
Oh,
maybe?
Yeah.
Those two
Simone
like
and
nerdy
Malcolm,
pronatalist. Yeah, they are like this. If you guys don't know who they are,
Malcolm
they're this
and
like
Simone Collins. But
yes,
yeah,
they are this nerdy, super nerdy, pronatalist. They've like created their own religion that is like sort of a joke, but like an AI religion. Basically, they're kind of like tech futurists and whatever. And their podcast is pretty interesting. I don't agree with everything they say, but I agree with a lot of it, and they're entertaining and fun.
Yeah.
And their most recent episode was about this topic basically of abortion and they read an essay by this girl Romy on Twitter, who was like one of Ayla's fluffers at her birthday gangbang. And Romy, the fluffer at Ayla's birthday gangbang, fell in love with one of the 42 men who showed up for the gangbang. They went on to have a relationship and have a baby.
She had 42. It was 42.
She had 42 men at the.
But was it like a
birthday
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? 42.
It was. I don't know what that reference is supposed to mean, but apparently it was like.
Somebody in chat tell me, was it
Okay.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy 42?
It was like, in a funny way, it's like it was so queer. It was like very left coded in a way, which kind of is the only way you can safely do these types of like extreme sex parties. But I remember when I was on the left and I had friends who were I don't get it, but whatever. I had friends who were like kinky and like in like sex party scenes, and I like went to some of them with them, and everything is like, it's very unsexy, the amount of like planning. Like we had to go to like an information session at someone's house like a week in advance so we could all learn about like all of the rules, and you have to like really make plans. You have to set out exactly what you're gonna do in your scene, in this like sexual encounter, and what you want your
Not all sex
aftercare
parties are like that. But
no, but the like the kind of like, but the ones like this, the ones where like the sort of more like higher IQ and socioeconomic status people basically like it's very autistic.
No,
it's very autistic.
I believe it. Yeah.
But so anyway, so this Romy girl meets one of the guys and they have a baby, but before she had a baby with this man from the gangbang.
Was this a blocked and reported episode?
I don't know, but maybe. I really don't listen anymore. I've dropped off of blocked and reported. But anyway, I'm telling these stories so terribly and so long. I can't believe anyone's still listening. But Kate, you're forced to listen. But Romy, before she had her baby with this one of 42, she had an abortion. I don't know if it was with him or with a different boyfriend. I think it might have been with a different boyfriend, just from like the context or whatever. And she wrote a Substack, a really beautiful and traumatic piece basically about this abortion. And this girl, Romy, is pro-choice. She's like one of the sort of autistic, liberal and conservative, like an Ayla person, right? Ayla is like conservative coded, but she's quite liberal and whatever.
Yes.
Anyway, her story of her abortion was like really fucking traumatic, as in like she went and got the abortion pill and like it didn't it didn't take. And so she had to do it like 4 times and it didn't take. And then she she goes to have an abortion at like the Planned Parenthood or whatever. And again, the writing is so beautiful and so tortured. And she gets to the Planned Parenthood and some protester out there is asking her like, please not to do this. And she's just like, I don't even want to try to repeat because I can't remember the exact words. It was much more poetic than I'm going to describe it. But it was just like, at this point, I have to put him out of his misery, you know? Like I've just been like killing him slowly, you know? And then it's like, it suddenly becomes this big protracted thing as opposed to this kind of like one and done and you can compartmentalize. It's like, she's now killing her baby over a series of weeks of unsuccessfully having this abortion. And again, her conclusion is that she's still pro-choice, but Simone and Malcolm come to the conclusion that this really radicalized them against like the abortion pill and stuff like that. So anyway,
yes, I am
total
not,
crazy tangent.
Yeah, I am pro-choice, whatever, and not, I would say pro-abortion. I do not like the abortion pill is not something I am super comfortable with.
Yeah,
not like medically comfortable, not like morally comfortable, but like in some ways, like doctors will prescribe it without seeing you. I do think that like probably good to have a real appointment with a real person, with a real doctor, that it shouldn't be like that there should be some gatekeeping around, not like who can have it, but like you should have to see a healthcare provider. You should know if you are a good candidate for it. Not going well, and like what you need to do to follow up for that, like how much bleeding, like there's just so many things, you know. And I don't know, it just seems I've heard quite a few people like have taken it and like need to go have like a DNC anyways after, right? So like, and a DNC is not like the worst thing.
I just remembered more from the article. It's so traumatic. I'm sorry I'm giving away like all the big parts, but I think you guys should both read the article and watch this episode of, I already forgot the name of their show, Base Camp. You guys should watch it. But I can't remember now if this was Simone telling the story, or I think it was Simone reading from the story from Romy's article. But she talks about meeting this other woman who had an abortion. I think I think from the pill, similarly.
Yeah.
And so she has her abortion in her pants at work or something, like in the bathroom, basically, in like a public, that's when it comes out, I should say. The baby.
You can't have a baby. It's not a baby. You can't have a pill abortion for a baby.
Sure.
It's like a.
You
should not be surprised, though.
It wasn't a surprise. No, it wasn't a surprise to this person. No, it wasn't a surprise. But basically, this is like really graphic, but I think quite powerful in some way. This woman has her essentially miscarriage, even though it was abortion, right? It was an abortion pill, right? So yes, she's miscarrying the very small fetus, right? And she says she ate it.
Fuck off.
Hold on, but bear with me here. I know that sounds literally insane, but Simone is saying and Romy is saying that like they just immediately understood that, and her thing was like, what was I supposed to do? Like throw him in the trash can, you know? Like you know, it's like that was like the only like thing that she could think, and they were making commentary on like, you know, like the animal kingdom like figured this out, you know, and it was just this. I know it's like disturbing, and I haven't had a baby.
Okay, look, I don't know,
but there
how,
was this like beautiful tortured thing about this whole
get
story.
It, but like it was probably a fucking blood clot and not a fetus. Like, yes, I just like this is so like far fetched to me. Okay, like
read it,
read it
and listen to it.
Okay, but the size. Of
I'm probably getting some details
like,
wrong, but the detail of her eating it was real.
I think it has to be so early that it's so. I don't even know if it would be perceptible. This is just so. That's just so insane.
You make a good point. It would
be
like
but hold on, but like, but yes, I mean, anyone who's ever fucking menstruated before, knows what a blood
I'm
clot looks
smiling
like,
because I
but
know this is, like, really bizarre.
knows what a blood
I'm
clot looks
smiling
like,
because I
but
know this is, like, really bizarre.
this is just
but-
like sorry
yeah.
guys, but so I get that, but like when I was pregnant with my son, and I thought, like, I remember like the odds were so bad, and in the beginning, before I had any further tests done or anything like that, I like sat on my couch for like weeks and just like cried and couldn't move and didn't know what to do. I was like so fucking shell shocked of like,
Right.
how do I figure out what to do? Like I didn't know what to do. And like it had to go like really deeply inside to figure out like what is the best thing here.
Right.
You know. And I decided to try. Oh, it's your phone. Okay. But
Sorry.
like I remember being fucking horrified after a certain point in my pregnancy. I was like, what if I miscarry at home and he comes, what do I do? And I remember sitting and fucking like bawling about not knowing like how to handle that situation if it was going to happen. And it didn't feel like a far off thing to happen. Do you know what I mean? I don't think eating it ever would have crossed my mind, but I remember like crying to like my husband, being like, what do I do if this happens? And just being like you do nothing and you just call me, like type of thing, because like I couldn't figure out like how to handle that. I just feel that just story sounds so bombastic to me.
There was
I
something
can't
about
help
it
but
too.
feeling like,
Well, I just remembered a detail. Listen, maybe it's bullshit. I still think there was a lot more impact and interesting stuff if you can, even if you just like skip over that part.
yes,
But there's a detail that I just remembered, which was something to the effect of, so when I think her name was not Romy, this might be Remy actually. No, maybe it's Romy. Anyway, that doesn't fucking matter. She asked like after the DNC if she could have like bring the baby home to be buried or something.
okay, that's not well. That's just I don't know. I don't.
But I could
I don't
understand
think
that.
it's well.
That to me doesn't seem unreasonable. That doesn't seem crazy to me. And basically, she was told no because they have a process of like apparently all the fetuses like go to the funeral, like a funeral home, which also doesn't really make sense to me. But to me, that doesn't sound crazy at all. That people would want to bury their fetus. Basically, that does not seem crazy to me. Anyway, I went from really selling this to now making everyone horrified of it. But I still think that it's worth watching that episode and reading her Substack posts, and then maybe we can talk about how realistic we think that
I will check it
that
out.
detail was.
I'm having trouble wrapping my mind around it, honestly. I mean,
to
if I
Graham
thought,
Fandingo's point, sorry,
Yeah.
people bury miscarriages and stuff like that. So to me, it doesn't seem that crazy that someone would request a fetus from which, I mean, miscarriage and abortion, they're different, but like they are, yeah. So anyway, that part doesn't seem so crazy to me, that someone would request to be able to properly lay to rest, essentially. I don't know.
I hear it. I just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It just feels so, I don't know if there's something like wrong with me, but I guess it depends on how far you are. Big along that I can understand. I have a really hard time with sentimentality over things like that, and that I know that sounds callous. This is like a me problem. So this could just very well be like I am the person who is too detached from these things. I just find that great, and I understand like the marking of a transitionary period of time or some type of like ritual that we do to understand it. I don't know. I just think I would never expect a medical place to give me anything that they took out like that. That's just so far afield from what I would expect them to do that it just feels like
you're talking about just a much more logical reaction to what the policies and procedures would be,
as opposed to at home. Things could be different. Like, anyways, this is just I don't know, but I could be completely the person in the the strange one here. You know what I mean?
Well, no, evidently I'm the strange one because I described this story of eating the aborted fetus as tortured and beautiful. So I apparently am the mentally ill one here. But
Well,
I
there we
think
go.
eating your aborted fetus is the perfect note to end this conversation on.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for hanging out.
Yeah. Hope you got what you came for.
Go have some dinner. I was gonna make
Yeah.
another. I was gonna say
Nothing
something
red.
else.
Yeah. you
No
don't
red
wanna-
Jello.
I would avoid like the pasta sauce tonight and stuff like that. Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
be back. Are we gonna be back later this week? We're gonna be back later this week.
I think so. I know like my Wednesday and Thursday is pretty shitty, but I think by Friday my schedule should, with a giant asterisk, should be better. So yes, most likely.
Yeah, and I totally agree. We need to get back to stork deliveries.
Yeah.
According to Zero Fucks and all four.
That's the type of traditionalism that I am in support of.
Yeah.
That's another conversation I want to have. This whole Andrew Wilson, Lauren Southern, Richard Spencer, everyone jumping into the conversation. I have complicated thoughts, so I would like to talk about that maybe next time or at some point soon.
Let's do it. All right. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you guys. Oh,
See you
and
next
like the stream, like and subscribe.
Yeah,
Tell
like
your
and
internet
subscribe, please.
friends. Tell your
Yeah.
internet friends to come watch our show.
Hang out.
And yeah.
And I think just a little bit of housekeeping. Hopefully, in a couple of weeks, on Tuesdays, I will stop becoming a pumpkin at exactly 3:30, and either we could like start a bit later or go a bit longer. And if you guys want to call in or something,
Amazing.
we can set something like that up. So let's do it. All right, guys, have a good one, and we will
Thanks,
catch you
everyone.
soon. PLATNER for president.
Yes.
All right.
Bye, guys.